going to be much more nervous. And we did a bit of recording beforehand as well, early this year.
When the world learned that Christine McVie had passed away in November of 2022, millions of hearts broke at once. The legendary Fleetwood Mac singer and keyboardist, whose voice had soundtracked so many of our lives, was gone at the age of 79. At the time, her family simply said she had died after a short illness, and that was all we knew. But months later, when her death certificate was revealed through court documents, the truth came out, and what we learned was absolutely heartbreaking. The woman who had given us songs like Don't Stop and Songbird had been fighting battles we never knew about. Today, we're going to talk about the sad and difficult details that came to light about Christine McVie's final days. This isn't easy to discuss, but it's important to honor her memory by understanding what she went through. Christine McVie wasn't just a member of Fleetwood Mac. She was the heart and soul of the band in so many ways. While Stevie Nicks brought the mystical magic and Lindsey Buckingham brought the creative genius, Christine brought something else entirely. She brought warmth. She brought steadiness. She brought those incredible songs that made you feel like everything was going to be okay, even when life was falling apart. When you listened to Christine sing, it felt like someone was wrapping you in a warm blanket on a cold night. Her voice wasn't just beautiful. It was comforting. It was home. She joined Fleetwood Mac back in the early 1970s, and from that moment on, nothing was ever the same for the band or for rock and roll. She wrote and sang some of their biggest hits. Songs like You Make Loving Fun Everywhere, Little Eyes, and Say You Love Me became the soundtrack to millions of lives. These weren't just catchy pop songs. They were pieces of art that touched people's souls. Christine had this incredible ability to write about love and heartbreak, and hope in ways that felt deeply personal yet completely universal. When she sang about love, you believed her. When she sang about pain, you felt it. She was real in a way that so many artists try to be, but never quite achieve. What made Christine even more special was her personality. While the drama swirled around her in Fleetwood Mac, and there was plenty of drama as we all know, Christine remained the calm in the storm. She was known as the peacekeeper, the one who kept everyone together when tensions ran high. Mick Fleetwood, the band's drummer and founder, once said she was like the band's mother figure. She looked after everyone. She made sure things didn't completely fall apart during their most chaotic times. And believe me, Fleetwood Mac had some chaotic times. The making of their famous album Rumors alone could fill a dozen books with stories of heartbreak and conflict. But through it all, Christine was a steady one. When news of her death broke on November 30th, 2022, the announcement was brief and simple. Her family released a statement saying she had passed away peacefully at the hospital following a short illness. She had been surrounded by family, and they asked everyone to remember her as an incredible human being and a revered musician who was loved universally. The band themselves released their own tribute, calling her truly one of a kind, special and talented beyond measure. They said she was the best musician anyone could have in their band, and the best friend anyone could have in their life. Stevie Nicks, her longtime friend and bandmate, was devastated. She called Christine her best friend in the whole world. Lindsey Buckingham described her as a musical comrade, a friend, a soulmate, and a sister. The loss was profound for everyone who knew her, and for the millions of fans around the world who had grown up with her music. But at that time, we didn't know exactly what had taken her from us. The family statement mentioned only a short illness, and out of respect for their privacy, nobody pushed for more details. We knew she had been struggling with health issues. In fact, Christine herself had spoken about it just a few months before her death. In an interview with Rolling Stone magazine back in June of 2022, Christine had admitted something that shocked her fans. She said she was in quite bad health. She talked about having a chronic back problem that was debilitating her. She explained that she didn't feel physically up to touring anymore. She said the mind was willing, but the flesh was weak. It was heartbreaking to hear her talk this way because Christine McVie had always seemed so vibrant and full of life on stage. Her last performance with Fleetwood Mac had been back in 2019 at an event called Dreamfest in San Francisco. Her last solo appearance was in 2020 at a tribute concert in London for Peter Green, one of Fleetwood Mac's founding members. After that, she quietly stepped away from the spotlight. At the time, fans hoped it was just a temporary break, that maybe she would rest up and come back when she felt better. But deep down, those who paid close attention could sense that something more serious was going on. Christine wasn't the type to complain about minor aches and pains. If she was saying she was in bad health, it meant things were really difficult. Then in April of 2023, more than 3 months after her passing, the real details emerged. Court documents were filed to sell Christine's estate, which was valued at over $50 million. Along with these documents came her official death certificate, and what it revealed was shocking and deeply sad. The information was obtained and shared by a media outlet called The Blast, and suddenly we understood just how much Christine had been suffering in her final months and days. According to the death certificate, the primary cause of Christine McVie's death was something called an ischemic stroke. Now, let me explain what that means in simple terms, because it's important to understand. A stroke happens when blood flow to part of your brain gets cut off or reduced. Your brain needs a constant supply of blood because blood carries oxygen and nutrients that brain cells need to survive. When that blood flow gets interrupted, brain cells start to die within minutes. It's an incredibly serious medical emergency. An ischemic stroke specifically means that a blood clot has blocked a blood vessel in the brain. This is actually the most common type of stroke, making up the vast majority of all stroke cases. But common doesn't mean less serious. Ischemic strokes can be devastating, and without immediate medical treatment, they are often fatal. But the stroke wasn't the only thing listed on Christine's death certificate. There was more. The document also mentioned something called bilateral renal infarction. This is another medical term that needs explaining. Bilateral means both sides. Renal means having to do with the kidneys. And infarction means that tissue has died because blood flow was cut off. So what this means is that blood flow to both of Christine's kidneys had been blocked. Just like the brain, kidneys need constant blood flow to function. When that blood flow stops, the kidney tissue starts to die. Having this happen to both kidneys at once is extremely serious and life-threatening. The death certificate listed additional contributing factors that painted an even more complex and troubling picture of Christine's health in her final days. One of these was something called a large atrial thrombus. Let's break that down. The atrium is one of the chambers of your heart. A thrombus is just a medical word for a blood clot. So a large atrial thrombus means there was a big blood clot in one of the chambers of Christine's heart. This is incredibly dangerous because blood clots in the heart can break loose and travel through the bloodstream to other parts of the body, like the brain or the lungs. In fact, studies have shown that nearly half of all large blood clots in the heart are fatal, especially if they cause other complications like strokes or blockages in the lungs. Christine's death certificate also mentioned atrial fibrillation, which is often shortened to AFib. This is a type of irregular heartbeat. Instead of beating in a steady, regular rhythm, the heart beats irregularly and often too fast. Now, many people live with atrial fibrillation and manage it with medication. It's not uncommon, especially in older adults. In the United Kingdom alone, about 1.4 million people have this condition. However, AFib is serious because it greatly increases the risk of having a stroke. When your heart isn't beating regularly, blood can pool in the chambers of the heart and form clots. Those clots can then travel to the brain and cause a stroke, which is exactly what appears to have happened in Christine's case. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has noted that AFib significantly raises stroke risk, and unfortunately, deaths related to AFib have been increasing over the past couple of decades. All of these conditions, the stroke, the kidney problems, the heart issues, they were all connected. They painted a picture of a body under tremendous stress. Blood clots forming in the heart because of the irregular rhythm. Those clots then traveling through the bloodstream and blocking vital blood flow to the brain and kidneys. It was a cascade of serious medical problems, each one feeding into the next, each one making the situation more critical. But there was still more. The death certificate listed a secondary cause of death that was particularly heartbreaking. Christine had been diagnosed with something called metastatic malignancy of unknown primary origin. For those who aren't familiar with medical terms, let me translate. Malignancy means cancer. Metastatic means the cancer has spread from where it started to other parts of the body. And unknown primary origin means that doctors had found cancer cells in Christine's body, but they couldn't figure out where the cancer had originally started. This is a particularly difficult type of cancer to deal with because treatment usually depends on knowing where the cancer began. Different types of cancer respond to different treatments, so not knowing the origin makes it much harder for doctors to choose the best approach. Metastatic cancer that is spread throughout the body is stage for cancer, the most advanced stage. By the time cancer is spread to multiple parts of the body, it becomes very difficult to treat. The fact that Christine had this diagnosis along with all her other health problems shows just how much she was battling in her final months. She was fighting cancer, dealing with heart problems, and then she suffered a massive stroke that ultimately took her life. It's almost impossible to imagine how difficult things must have been for her. What makes all of this even more poignant is that Christine had hinted at her health struggles just months before her death. Remember that Rolling Stone interview from June 2022? She had talked about being in quite bad health. She mentioned having a chronic back problem that debilitated her. Now, Christine had actually dealt with scoliosis for much of her life. Scoliosis is a condition where the spine curves sideways instead of being straight. In severe cases, it can cause significant pain and mobility issues. While scoliosis itself isn't usually fatal, certain types of untreated scoliosis can sometimes be connected to heart and cardiovascular problems. We don't know exactly what type of scoliosis Christine had, or whether it contributed to her other health issues, but it's clear that her back problems were serious enough to keep her from performing. In that interview, Christine had been asked about the possibility of touring again with Fleetwood Mac. Her answer was honest and heartbreaking. She said she didn't feel physically up for it. She explained that she stood up to play the piano, and with her back problems, she didn't know if she could actually physically do it anymore. Then she said something that now seems almost prophetic. The mind is willing, but the flesh is weak. She wanted to perform. She wanted to be with her bandmates and share her music with audiences one more time, but her body wouldn't let her. Even then, just 6 months before her death, she knew she was fighting a battle she might not win. Looking back now, we can see that Christine was probably dealing with far more than she let on publicly. She spoke about her back problems and said she was in bad health, but she didn't mention cancer. She didn't talk about heart problems. Whether she was trying to keep things private or whether she herself didn't know the full extent of what was happening in her body, we'll never know. But what we do know is that she was suffering, and she was doing it with the same grace and dignity that she had brought to every other aspect of her life. The revelation of her death certificate came as part of the process of settling her estate. Christine had never married again after her divorce from Eddie Quinola, and she never had children. Her estate, worth more than $50 million, was left to her brother and his children, as well as to various charities. Her longtime business manager was named as the executor, and the documents show that there was actually some urgency in handling the estate because there was a massive tax bill due. Over £31 million in taxes had to be paid by a certain deadline, or the estate would face significant penalties and interest. Even in death, there were practical matters to deal with, complicated financial situations to navigate. When the details of the death certificate became public, it sent shockwaves through the music community and among fans worldwide. People were stunned to learn just how much Christine had been dealing with. The outpouring of love and grief intensified. Fans who had already been mourning her loss found themselves grieving all over again, this time with the knowledge of how much she had suffered. Social media filled with tributes, memories, and expressions of heartbreak. People shared their favorite Christine McVie songs, talked about what her music had meant to them, and reflected on the loss of such an incredible talent. Her bandmates, who had already said their goodbyes publicly, must have been dealing with their own private grief as these details emerged. Fleetwood had said at the Grammy Awards in February of 2023, just a few months after Christine's death, that he thought the line in the sand had been drawn with her loss. He said he thought Fleetwood Mac was done, though he acknowledged they had all said that before. But there was finality in his voice this time. Without Christine, The band just wasn't the same. She had been such a fundamental part of their sound, their chemistry, their very identity. The idea of Fleetwood Mac without Christine McVie was almost unthinkable. Stevie Nicks, who had called Christine her best friend in the whole world, must have been devastated by the details of her friend's suffering. The two women had shared so much over the years. They had harmonized together on countless songs. They had supported each other through personal heartbreaks and professional challenges. They had been the two women in a male-dominated rock world, holding their own and becoming legends in the process. Stevie had written that a part of her heart had flown away when Christine died. Learning the full extent of what Christine had endured in her final months must have made that loss even more painful. What strikes me most about all of this is how Christine handled her illness with such quiet dignity. She didn't make a big public announcement about her cancer diagnosis. She didn't seek sympathy or attention. She simply stepped back from the spotlight when her body wouldn't let her continue. That was so typical of Christine. Throughout her career, she had never been the one seeking attention. She wasn't flashy or dramatic like some of her bandmates could be. She was steady, reliable, and always put the music first. Even in her final months, she maintained that same approach. She dealt with her health struggles privately, surrounded by the people who loved her, without turning her illness into a spectacle. There's something both admirable and heartbreaking about that. Admirable because it shows incredible strength and grace. Heartbreaking because it means she was suffering more than any of us realized. When we saw that final interview where she talked about her back problems, we had no idea she was also fighting cancer. We had no idea her heart was struggling. We had no idea that in just 6 months, she would be gone. If we had known, would we have appreciated her even more? Would we have flooded her with more love and gratitude while she was still here to receive it? These are the questions that haunt us when someone we admire passes away, especially when we learn they were suffering in ways we never knew. The medical details from Christine's death certificate also highlight something important about health, particularly as we age. Christine was 79 when she died. That's a good long life by many standards, but it's not unusually old. Many people live well into their 80s and 90s these days. What her case shows us is how interconnected our body systems are. Her heart problems contributed to the formation of blood clots. Those blood clots caused a stroke and the kidney damage. The cancer was spreading through her body, putting additional stress on all her systems. It's a reminder that taking care of our health isn't just about addressing one problem at a time. Everything in our body is connected, and problems in one area can cascade into problems in others. It's also a reminder of how serious conditions like atrial fibrillation and high blood pressure can be. Many people don't take these conditions seriously enough because they might not cause obvious symptoms right away. But AFib, as we saw in Christine's case, can lead to blood clots that cause strokes. High blood pressure can damage blood vessels over time, making strokes and heart attacks more likely. These aren't just minor inconveniences to be ignored. They're serious health conditions that need proper medical care and management. The fact that Christine's cancer was of unknown primary origin also highlights a challenge in modern medicine. Despite all our advanced technology and medical knowledge, there are still cases where doctors can't pinpoint exactly where cancer started. This makes treatment incredibly difficult because different cancers respond to different therapies. Not knowing the origin means doctors have to make educated guesses about the best treatment approach. And sometimes that means a cancer progresses faster than it might have if the origin had been known. It's frustrating and frightening, and it's what Christine was dealing with alongside everything else. Thinking about Christine's final days, knowing what we now know, makes her loss even more profound. She was in the hospital, surrounded by her family. Her body was failing in multiple ways at once. The stroke that ultimately took her life was massive, affecting her brain when her body was already weakened by cancer and kidney failure. It's hard to imagine a more difficult way to go. And yet, by all accounts, she faced it with courage and with the love of her family around her. She didn't die alone. She didn't die forgotten. She died knowing she was loved, knowing she had created something beautiful that would outlast her physical presence in this world. Her music, of course, lives on. That's the beautiful thing about being an artist. Christine McVie's body may have failed her, but her voice will never die. Her songs continue to play on radios, in cars, at weddings, at parties, in quiet moments when someone needs comfort. New generations discover Fleetwood Mac all the time, and when they do, they fall in love with Christine's voice just like their parents and grandparents did. Songs like Don't Stop have become cultural touchstones, used in political campaigns and commercials, known by people who might not even realize who sang them originally. Songbird remains one of the most beautiful love songs ever written, so simple and yet so profound. Everywhere has found new life through social media and has introduced Christine's music to a whole new generation of fans. When I listen to Christine McVie now, knowing what I know about her final months, the songs hit differently. There's a poignancy to them that wasn't there before. When she sings about love and loss, about hoping for better days, about finding strength to carry on, it means more knowing that she herself had to find that strength in her darkest hours. Her music was never just entertainment. It was truth. It was emotion made audible. It was a piece of her soul that she shared with the world, and we are all richer for it. The details revealed in Christine McVie's death certificate are sad. There's no other word for it. They're just sad. Learning that she battled cancer, heart problems, and ultimately suffered a massive stroke that took her from us is heartbreaking. But there's also something important in knowing these details. It helps us understand what she went through. It helps us appreciate the courage it took for her to keep going, to do that final interview, to live with grace even as her body was failing her. It reminds us that our heroes are human, that they suffer and struggle just like the rest of us, and that makes their accomplishments even more remarkable. Christine McVie gave us a lifetime of beautiful music. She gave us songs that have soundtracked our lives, our relationships, our happiest and saddest moments. She was part of one of the greatest rock bands of all time, and she did it with humility, grace, and incredible talent. She was the heart of Fleetwood Mac, the steady presence that kept them together through their wildest times. She was a friend, a sister, a soulmate to her bandmates. She was an inspiration to countless musicians who came after her, and she was a source of comfort and joy to millions of fans around the world. The fact that her final months were marked by illness and suffering doesn't diminish any of that. If anything, it makes it more powerful. She created all that beauty, all that joy, all that music, and she did it as a human being who experienced pain and difficulty just like anyone else. She didn't let her struggles define her or stop her from living a full and meaningful life. She kept creating, kept sharing her gifts, kept being there for the people she loved until the very end. In the months since the details of her death certificate were revealed, fans have continued to honor Christine's memory. Tribute concerts have been held. Her songs continue to climb the charts as new listeners discover them and old fans revisit them. Musicians pay homage to her influence, covering her songs and citing her as an inspiration. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where she was inducted with Fleetwood Mac back in 1998, continues to celebrate her contributions to music history. Award shows have honored her legacy. Her face has appeared in tribute segments, reminding younger viewers of her incredible impact on popular music. What Christine McVie's death certificate ultimately reveals is that a legend left us, yes, but a human being left us too. A woman who struggled with illness, who dealt with pain, who faced immortality with courage and dignity. The medical details are sad, but they also tell a story of someone who lived fully until she couldn't anymore, who battled until the end, and who left behind a legacy that will never die. When we think of Christine McVie now, we should think of more than just the sad details of her death. We should think of her smile, her warm voice, her incredible songs. We should think of her sitting at her keyboard, creating magic with her bandmates. We should think of the joy she brought to millions of people over decades of making music. We should think of her kindness, her steadiness, her role as a peacekeeper in a band full of big personalities. We should think of her as a complete person she was, talented and humble, strong and gentle, human and heroic all at once. Her death certificate tells us how she died, but it doesn't tell us how she lived. That story is told in her music, in the memories of those who knew her, and in the hearts of fans who will never forget what she meant to them. Christine McVie lived a life worth celebrating, and while the details of her death are sad, the story of her life is beautiful, and that's what we should remember most. So today, If you're a fan of Christine McVie or Fleetwood Mac, or if you're just someone who appreciates good music and the people who create it, take a moment to listen to one of her songs. Put on Don't Stop and let it lift your spirits. Listen to Songbird and let it move your heart. Play everywhere, and remember that good music never dies. And when you listen, remember the woman who created it, who poured her heart and soul into every note, who battled illness with grace, and who left this world having made it so much more beautiful than she found it. Christine McVie's death certificate revealed sad details, yes, but her life revealed something far more important. It revealed what it means to be an artist, to create beauty, to touch lives, and to leave a legacy that will outlast any illness, any suffering, any of the inevitable pains of being human. She may be gone, but she will never be forgotten. Her music lives on, and so does her spirit, in every note, every lyric, every beautiful song she gave us. Rest in peace, Christine McVie. You were truly one of a kind. You were the songbird, and your song will echo through eternity. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for taking this journey with me to honor Christine McVie's memory. If this video moved you or taught you something new about this incredible artist, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and helps more people discover stories like this one. And if you want to see more tributes to legendary musicians and deep dives into music history, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Share this video with other Fleetwood Mac fans in your life, with people who appreciate great music, or with anyone who could use a reminder of how one person's art can touch millions of lives. Leave a comment below sharing your favorite Christine McVie song or your favorite memory of her music. I love reading your stories and connecting with fellow music lovers. Thank you for watching, and remember, keep the music alive.